Henry Thomas, everybody.
Nice to see you, Steve. Yeah, thanks.
All right. I was just saying that the last couple of people we've had up here have had pretty extensive and varied careers in terms of genre and TV. You know, I don't think anyone tops what you have gone, like what you've done in terms of the number of things you've done, how long you've been doing it, the variety of things you've done.
I should be entirely more succcessor than I am.
I don't know. I will say though that and when I was sort of looking through the entirety of your career, there were sort of eras of things like that. I mean, obviously the child actor thing, which is not a genre, but it's something that you were right up there with some of the biggest ones, and then you kind of moved into more serious things after that. But your current one is very horror heavy. So, yeah. And thanks to two people who overlap a lot, Stephen King and Mike Flanagan. So I want to start there, I guess. Yeah, exactly. And
Mike has a few fans here.
I almost posted like a Venn diagram of like the intersection be bigger than the rest of the circles, but let me just bounce back though, because one of the first things that I remember seeing you in, as you were just sort of coming, well, no, you were still a child actor, was Psycho 4, yeah, where you played young Norman Bates, and directed by Mick Garris, whose name has come up here a few times today.
Yeah, also a Stephen King alum.
Probably directed more Stephen King things than anybody. But tell us about, I mean, how much did you study what Anthony Perkins did? How much did you try to make it a little bit your own? Because you're sort of playing Norman at this transitional part in his life where he's just starting to get traumatized enough to become a psycho. So,
well, it was interesting because the two guys that were shooting the behind-the-scenes footage for a film I did for Universal in 1984 called Cloak and Dagger.
Yep.
All right. Hey, we needed you guys on opening weekend. Yeah. We didn't last much longer after that, but it had a resurgence later with cable and everything. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people saw it through that. But those two guys were named Les Mayfield and George Zaloom, and they were producers of Psycho 4, which was shot for Showtime. Mm-hmm. So that's how that part kind of came my way. And I spent the majority of 2 months watching Psycho over and over again on a loop, yeah. Kind of trying to get Anthony Perkins' physical characteristics down, like the way he walked up the stairs, and there's like a few iconic shots that I thought, in my 18-year-old performer's mind, hey, that would be a good thing to lock into.
Had you ever done that before? Like studied to someone else's performance to that had to be like a first for you.
Not really. I mean, I kind of, it was kind of like for me, I spent most of my youth and young, teenage years sort of trying to feel like that I should be there in the first place whenever I got a job. I was kind of worried about the acting police coming
imposter syndrome
carrying me away.
Yeah,
it was like kind of a weird imposter syndrome / Dunning-Kruger, idea of, do I really belong here in the professional world of acting? And, I kind of, this role in particular I kind of consider it my first adult role. Mm-hmm. And, after that, I guess the next big thing was Fire in the Sky. Yeah.
Which is a film that tried to take the alien invasion thing seriously. Like, what would that be like?
It was, it was kind of like a a whodunit of
Yeah.
alien abduction. But
Yeah.
but it was a big deal for me to get that role. It was a small role in the film, but being in a studio film again was kind of a big deal.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I'll let you guys ask the ET questions. I feel like I've heard those stories so many times, and maybe
It's the
some of you haven't.
longest press tour in history.
Still going on?
Yeah, I've been promoting this film since 1982.
But what I will say, I will ask this, because I love every 5 years, there's usually like you and Drew and Spielberg and Dee get together, and Dee's been here many times, but you guys get together and usually you film something that you put out into the world because they
Yeah.
re-release some version of it on home video. But you have these conversations with each other, and I feel like I always learn something new about.
We do too.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
ask you. What were some even the most recent time you did that? What were some of the things that you remember going? Oh, I didn't even realize that was happening. Or
Well, a lot of it, a lot of it was just there's age differences. I was 10 at the time. Robert McNaughton was around 15, 16. So, their awareness of what else was going on was a lot more in depth than my 10-year-old mind.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about certain things, and they were, and so they'll tell me stories. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea that was going on.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that. You hear someone else's perspective, because Tommy Howell will come in and talk about stuff, and it's like, I don't remember that.
Were there? I mean, it felt, just from the way you've always described it in those interviews, it just felt like it was such a friendly, loving set. Everyone was taking care of each other, and
Yeah.
But when you moved on to your next few things, and maybe they weren't quite as comforted, they're not. I mean, they're just like normal sets. Probably. Did it take you a while to make that adjustment and realize? I know you've done stuff before, but
Yeah, no, I don't know. Every set is like 100% different and 100% the same, right? Like it's a familiar environment. They all feel the same once you're there. But I think what was great about E.T. for me was that I had been in films before, I had been working before, but I had never worked with other kids who were professional actors who were around my age, who, I could talk to as a peer about the industry, because I didn't know anything about the business. I had just been chosen a couple of times to play a role, and that's all I knew.
yeah. Let me ask you, because just a couple other films in my mind that I just sort of wrote down before I even looked at your list of films. I'm like, which ones do I remember? And many of them, and I include Mick Garrison, as sort of directors that I really love. And you were in Legends of the Fall that Robert Redford directed.
No, Ed Zwick.
Oh, sorry, Zwick. You're right.
No,
So
that's
Zwick. I should know that. He's
I
from
would have
Chicago.
I would have liked to have worked on a Robert
Right,
Redford.
Legends of the Fall, not River Runs Through It. Anyway, no, Legends of the Fall, but Zwick, again, it feels like it would be a different experience than maybe something. Tell me what was unique about him.
I don't know that he 100% wanted to cast me in the film, so I was always kind of I think I was always the object of doubt or derision, at some point where he was like, I don't know if I can. But I think he did that a lot because, he thought maybe Julia Ormond wasn't, attractive enough to, warrant all of the attention at one point, and I was like, you must be crazy. But no, you're kind of always proving yourself, proving your worth when you show up. You're never really a known quantity until then one day you just, now, I think it's just because I'm older and I'm usually more experienced than the people I'm working with now, that they just sort of, you know, I'm somehow like legit now. But when I was 20, 21, you know, I always felt like they were kind of like, oh, it's the guy from E.T. I don't know, can he do this?
The other one, we talked about a little yesterday, was a film you did for HBO called Indictment, about the McMartin trial, which, if you guys haven't seen this, it is a horror movie. It is for this family, it was a horror show. It was directed by, was it Mick Jackson? Is that right?
Yeah, it was Mick Jackson.
So who did like The Bodyguard and LA Story, like the guy, you know, but he did this for HBO. And I can never shake that movie. Like that's one of the first things I think of when I think of like you after E.T. is that film. Just talk a little bit about like, cause that, I mean, it was a true story.
Yeah.
And about, well,
it was about a family that owned a daycare in Southern California, and there were allegations of child abuse, and it just sort of spun out of control where, you know, investigators were asking kids these questions, and kids were coming up with these crazy stories, and the government, you know, basically went after this family because of the allegations. And after like a 7-year investigation and $15 million, like in the 80s, for the trial, there were no convictions. And you know, the show kind of
turned out the kids were making it up.
Well, it wasn't. You know, it wasn't like it was. There was a psychologist that was involved. There was a psychiatrist that was involved, and you know, some of the questions were very leading. Anyway, I played a guy called Raymond Bucky, who sort of out of the whole family, like he was the only guy that there was still some elements of doubt about his innocence or guilt. And I had worked with James Woods earlier that year on a Sam Shepard adaptation called Curse of the Starving Class. And Jimmy wanted me to play the role, so he got me that job. And I ended up getting nominated for a Golden Globe for it.
Yeah.
I didn't win, but I got nominated.
It's an honor just to be nominated.
I was nominated in this weird like catch-all category where it was like best performance supporting actor in a made-for-cable film or series, you know, and it was like
that came out in the month of June.
Yeah,
right?
it was like myself, Donald Sutherland, David Ogden Steers, somebody else I can't even remember, but you know, obviously I didn't win.
Was anybody like agent or manager or whatever trying to say maybe you don't want to play this guy who there's some lingering, I mean, that's one of the things I remember thinking even at the time was like, I can't believe he's playing this part, and like this is one of those. And we should mention this trial, this $15 million trial was I think someone told me yesterday, was the most expensive trial California history until the OJ trial.
Until the OJ trial.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
And it got no convictions. Oh, twice actually, no convictions.
No convictions.
Yeah. But yeah, did anyone sort of try to warn you off of maybe playing the character? Or?
I mean, I think, you know, it's like Hollywood stunt casting, you know. Oh, who are we going to get to play the child molester? Let's get the guy from E.T. You know, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're really clever. You know.
Oh man.
Next. You know. Let's make her a detective. You know, it's like it's kind of. But you know, those are the opportunities that you can take the stupidity of Hollywood and turn it in your favor. You know, so as an actor, you have to be able to seize upon those moments, career-wise, and you can't always.
Yeah.
But that was a moment I could. So
Just a couple other, like, you did work in horror in periods that I would consider not your horror-centric stuff, but you did a Masters of Horror episode that
Yeah.
Mick Garris directed. You did a Stephen King. I think it's actually come up. Wait, who brought it up? Steven Weber? Was he in Desperation?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Weber,
brought
yeah.
that up too. So you were in that too, also Mick Garris. And you
Yeah.
did an episode of Nightmares and Dreamscape, which was a Stephen King thing as well.
I've worked a lot in the King universe.
Yeah.
But I mostly have, gotten this far out of, kindness from people that I've worked with before. Like Mick came along and hired me for a few jobs, and other actors that I've worked with, they've gotten me parts and things, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. About 10 years ago, you made a film called Ouija, Origin of Evil, which I believe was a prequel
was
to
a
the
prequel.
original one.
Yeah.
But it was made by Mike Flanagan, so that was your first, I believe, your first collaboration with him.
It was the first time.
Tell me about your initial thoughts about Mike and his whole way of working.
I went to meet Mike, and I think I was like running close to like 13 or 14 months of unemployment. And I met with Mike, and it wasn't even a reading, so I kind of went in there thinking, I don't know what this is about. And and Mike kind of like fanboyed on me for about half an hour. And
He still does that, by the way.
And then I was
about a lot of things.
And then I was thinking, oh, he just brought me in to meet me because he wanted to meet the guy from E.T., I guess. And then
Meet the guy from Cloak and Dagger.
the Cloak and Dagger. So, I kind of went away from that, and then he was like, and I had like really long hair at the time, and he was like, listen, I want you to do this, but you're gonna have to cut your hair. And he asked me like he was afraid to ask me. And I was like, dude, I haven't worked in like 15 months. I'll cut my hair. Cut my leg off if you want. And so we worked together, and then he said, at some point during the production, he goes, you're one of my favorite actors, and I want to put you in everything that I do. And I was like, oh yeah, here we go. I've heard this before, Yeah, great, Mike. And then he did for like 8 years. He
In a
put me
row.
everything. Yeah. And I was like, oh.
I was looking at this, like every year there's something else.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was kind of funny because it was like he was so enthusiastic back then, like in the early days, where he was like, I've got the series going, I want you to be the lead. And I'm thinking, no studio is going to sign off on me being the lead for your show, but sure, great. And then he would come back to me like, 6 weeks later, and it would be like a smaller part. And then that wouldn't work out. And then it would be a smaller part. And, eventually I'd just go, yeah, whatever. And so I did these roles in his films and TV shows. And then Haunting of Hill House kind of broke, and it was a hit. And everybody loved that character. So that was kind of the glory moment for Mike and I, our collaborative effort. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was a bona fide hit. But tell me just about Mike as a director. Like, what makes him unique?
Well, it's really interesting because he will. So Mike will go through. Well, usually he'll write the script, and Mike's an editor. He came from an editing background, so he always has a very clear idea of what it's going to be at the end of the day. So you're not like wasting time going, oh, I think I'll do a shot of this. Because what Mike does is he'll write the script, and then he'll go through the script, and they'll build a shot list. From that shot list, they'll build the sets. And then when the sets are built and you're brought in as an actor, you're kind of, I don't usually like working like this because it feels very like dance monkey dance, but Mike kind of says, okay, you're gonna stand over here, and then at a certain point you're gonna come over here, and then this is gonna, and you might try like, well, Mike, I don't know if I would do that. Why wouldn't I just stay over in the corner? And he's like, well, I need you to come over here because I'm going to end this scene on this shot right here that I have lined up, you know, and you kind of go, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm just, you know, I'm stepping into this part, and that's what you do. And so it's very kind of choreographed. But at the same time, Mike is open to, you know, actors participating, so you're able to control kind of the character and where it goes. But yeah, it's kind of a different way of working than a lot of actors are used to.
I always wanted to ask somebody who's worked with him, especially on Hill House. There are like entire videos on YouTube of people pointing out where there's like a ghost in the background that they don't even call attention to. Is that there when you're shooting, or does he add that later?
No, it was there.
It's there.
It was, like, I started to like lose my patience with it actually, because, you know, you'd be gearing up to do a scene or a take of a scene, and they'd be like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Let's put a ghost in under the stairs in the back, and you're like, are you watching the scene, or are you thinking about ghosts? But you know, like, he had the vision and I guess the idea of the audience watching it. He had that in mind when he was developing it. So, you know, he's thinking kind of 3 or 4 moves ahead, and once you discover that, you feel a little bit safer, but sometimes it's like, what are we doing here? Yeah.
Mike, with the Stephen King films, the 3 films that he's done, they're all very unique because they've always been all 3 of those books have been described as unfilmable.
Unfilmable, yeah.
And he figures it out. And
he loves a challenge, Mike.
Yeah, well,
he loves a challenge.
More than a challenge, because you were in Gerald's game. But my God, again, back to Steven Weber, we have 2 Jack Torrances here. Yeah. And what you did in Dr. Sleep, I will admit, I didn't even recognize you the first time I watched it. And it was so good. The voice was perfect, the look was perfect. And it was please.
I was only on set for a day, so I feel guilty when people go, we love Dr. Sleep. I was like, I was there for 1 day.
But you make one of the biggest impacts, honestly. And that was a fascinating film to make, because he was balancing a line between people who love The Shining, which is not The Shining the book, but the book is a sequel to the book. Dr. Sleep is a sequel to The Shining, but this is not. I don't know. He was just. You guys know, they're blending elements of things that were made very differently, and are written very differently, and he somehow. That's why it was unfilmable, and that's why he's a genius. So, but again, back to the Jack Torrance of it all. Were you like, are you joking? You want me to play that?
I thought he was joking really at first, because he didn't call me. He just sent me a text, and it was like a really bad photoshopped photo of me with the Jack Nicholson hairline behind a bar, and he just sent it to me, and I was like, ha. You know, like, I thought he was just lampooning me or something, and then he was like, "No, really, I'm trying to sell this to the studio," and I said, "Oh, okay."
Wait, the movie or you in that role?
Me in that role.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I said, "Oh, okay." he was like, "You're cool with this, right?" He's like, "I have another role for you in the film, but it's something we've all seen you do before. You'd be on set a lot longer, but, you know," he's like, "but I really want to cast you as Jack." And I said, "Okay." After some thought, because, you know, it's like, it's an iconic character. A lot of people feel very strongly about that, and it's Jack Nicholson's character, let's be honest, right? You know, so I felt safe doing it with Mike because he's a big Stephen King fan, and I know, you know, he's not gonna leave me out flapping in the wind. But it's still kind of intimidating to step into a role like that. But luckily the role was meant to be, you know, the house kind of throwing up ideas to pull Danny in. So sometimes you're Delbert Grady, sometimes you're Lloyd the bartender, and sometimes you're Jack Torrance, you know, depending on what's gonna work with Danny at the moment. So, you know, Mike really directed that scene. I think I went too full Jack sometimes, and he dialed me back a lot. But I wish that I could have had as a salary the digital budget that they used to manipulate my eyebrows and hairline afterwards, because I think it was probably more than I've made in my entire career as an actor, what they spent on, you know, digital eyebrows. Because it was a big conversation early on about the hair, and I had to shave my head a month in advance and go to a tanning bed because they were worried my head would shine through, my scalp would shine through the wig. So I had to do some very strange things for the role, and then you know, as I said, I was only on set for a day, so it felt like it's the most work I've done for one day of work.
But you had all that impersonation experience with the Anthony Perkins thing, so you were an old hat at the time.
I mean, we're all mimics to a certain degree,
Yeah.
you know, but it, you know, it's fun within the context of the story, and as long as you're not, you know, ripping people off, I think it's okay.
Well, that's the thing. Every comedian has like a Jack Nicholson impression, and it's like, so you have to make sure you don't do that. Like you don't.
Yeah, and I did that a couple of times, but Mike dialed me back, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's good. That's why he's the director.
Tell me, because then in quick succession after that, it's like Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Fall of the House of Usher, and he's got this ensemble now, which, I mean, that doesn't really exist today. But with the Hammer films or whatever, they used to do that. They were pulling from a big group. And how does that feel to be a part of that, like an integral part of that? I think
it's fun, you know. It's fun because you know, you go to work and you kind of know what the other actors are going to do in the scene, because you've worked with them before, and you don't have the getting to know you hour of, you know, oh, interesting. Oh, you're going to play it that way. Okay. You know, it's just sort of, you know, it's like being in a band, you know, you just kind of start working off each other, and if you played with each other before, you develop a shorthand, and it's, you know, it's a pleasant way to work, I'd say, because you know the personalities that are going to be involved, and the bad personalities tend to get weeded out. You know?
So Dr. Sleep was not your last Stephen King intersection. You did a Pet Cemetery sequel called Bloodlines, where you played Judd Crandall's father, right? Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was about a young
it's very
Judd
confusing.
Crandall.
It's a very confusing story.
It was a hell of a cast, though. Like like a fully stacked cast. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're not here to talk about quality, right? No, we're here to talk about acting. No.
I hope not.
No, but again, like, was that, I mean, when you see something Stephen King come across your desk, do you give it a second, like, even if it doesn't, maybe this will come together in the edit or something, but you're like, it's Stephen King, I gotta do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, to be honest, like, I'm not an avid Stephen King fan, really, or a consumer of horror that much, really, but it's just sort of fallen that way, I guess, through association. But it's a popular genre, and when you're an actor and you have an opportunity to work and there's an interesting character, 9 times out of 10 I'll take it.
Yeah. You are, well, the mustache is for a role.
Yeah, I'm playing a sheriff, a crooked cop, really, in a small Kentucky backwater who is sort of blackmailing this family into making illegal moonshine so he can keep his income fixed at a certain level. And it's a series. It's a series. It's a pilot for a series. We're waiting to see if we get picked up. It's called Whisper Sisters, and so it's about 2 girls whose father dies, and they discover they're the scions of a famous moonshining family, and they're encouraged to keep their recipe going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love when we again, the last few Q&As up here, you guys are all working actors. You're all like, you're doing every size role, TV, movies, doesn't really, so I love that it's not, people who kind of don't work anymore, who've retired or whatever. It's great that you're here. And I'm sure you have things like, is there anything coming up that you can tell us about that you just want to have people keep an eye out for?
So I've been working a lot the last couple of years in independent films, and I have one film that's out at the moment called Due West on demand. You can find it on all of the major streaming services. But I have a few more of those that I've done. It's just the timeline's stretched out because of the film market now. It used to take about a year to see a film turn around and get released. Now it's like 2.5. So I think Due West we filmed 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh!
But it's out now, so you can see it.
That's also a Western, right?
No, it's not a Western. It's
what am I?
It's about a woman in a small Texas town who has an unwanted pregnancy, and I play the pastor who's trying to talk her out of going through with it and help her out. And it's sort of it's kind of a heavy film, but it's a good film.
Yeah. So there's a microphone right there in the aisle. If anyone has a question, we'll get to a couple of them here.
Your favorite memory working on Suicide Kings, great ensemble, specifically Christopher Walken. So any insight from that would be great.
Oh yeah, great. Suicide Kings it was a film, I think we shot in 1996, 1997, sometime around there. And working with Chris Walken was pretty amazing. I was also working with Jay Moore, who had been on Saturday Night Live and knew Chris Walken because they had done this skit called Dueling Walkens. And so Chris really liked Jay, but he really didn't like any of the rest of us. Like, the only person he would really talk to was Jay. So if we wanted to ask or find out anything about Chris, we would ask Jay to ask Chris for us. But Chris Walken had to be tied to a chair for the whole movie because he plays a mob boss, and we kind of kidnap him. And there was a guy named Joe Arnold who was a set dresser who had to tape Chris to the chair every day. And Chris was completely dissatisfied with the way he was being taped up. And it became like a running gag. And Joe would come over to tape him up, and he would go, Joe, they put a man on the moon. They put a man on the moon, Joe. You can't tape me to a chair. So
there's that mimic again.
yeah, there is. I couldn't resist.
Go ahead.
I wanted to let you know, I saw Cloak and Dagger in the theater, and we stayed after and watched Purple Rain.
Oh,
So that was a good day.
My man. All right.
At what point did you realize Mike Flanagan was the guy and knew exactly what he was doing?
I think probably about 2 days into working on the set of Ouija, I kind of, because I've worked with a lot of directors and, they seem like they have all their ducks in a row, and then, the cameras start rolling and the hair starts getting pulled out, and, their plan goes out the window, and Mike always had a great plan, and he stuck to it, and it was easy to see that he knew what he was going for, and it just builds confidence in the cast because you feel like you're in good hands. So yeah, you're welcome. Thanks. Good question.
Hi. So I had a question going back into your filmography. Were there any projects that you worked on that had extra special meaning to you, but really just kind of have stayed under the radar, and you really hope that some of us could just go out and seek that out and watch them?
Oh yeah, sure. There's a long list actually, but two films that spring to mind are Niagara and A Good Baby, which I don't know if you can find either of those anywhere, but that was sort of the mid-90s in the New York independent film scene. There were some pretty interesting films being done then by companies like the Shooting Gallery and directors like Michael Amareto and some others, but Hal Hartley, So anyway, those films, I dipped into that world for a second, and I really like some of those films, and of course you can't find them.
Niagara's a great movie. It's you're right. It was in that period where like indie guys were either trying to remake Kevin Smith or Tarantino, or they were doing that New York thing, which is kind of where that fell into. But that was a great.
There's also a film that I did right after E.T. in 1983, directed by Jerry Schatzberg, called Misunderstood, with Gene Hackman, Rip Torn, and Susan Ansbach. That was a very formative experience for me as an actor, and I think my best performance as a kid is that film.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and
hold on.
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
but I just thought of one more. Oh, a film I did in 1988 called Valmont, directed by Milos Forman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Dangerous Liaisons, but it's Milos Forman
better.
doing it. Yeah, it is really good.
It's good. I mean, Dangerous Liaisons is a sparkling diamond.
You play in Dangerous. It was Keanu Reeves part. Sort
Yeah,
of? I don't want to call it that, but from Dangerous Liaisons, it was him.
Yeah, it's the Chevalier de Danceny,
Yeah.
who's like a young, ineffectual sort of idealist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
What's the weirdest thing you had to do for Haunting of Hill House?
Weirdest thing I had to do for Haunting of Hill House. Oh, I know what it was. So it was written in the script that, at a certain point, I think I'm talking to Nell or somebody. I'm in her bedroom. I think it's the Pandestoni macaroni scene or whatever, and I'm supposed to, at the end of it, like open my mouth, and then they're gonna digitize it to where my mouth goes wah, like. So you know, you're doing a regular scene, and then all of a sudden at the end of the scene, you have to go. You know, and hope it's going to look okay. But, you know, it felt really weird to be sitting there with, like, Violet McGraw, you know, who's like 6, but stone cold, like, most serious actress you've ever worked with in your life. Like, knows the scene better than you do. And she's just looking at me like, so, you know, if you don't feel stupid at some point, you're not doing it right. That's what I always tell myself anyway. Yeah.
I think we got time for one more.
What's the best note that you received from Mike Flanagan about your acting?
You know, Mike's notes are usually like technical. Like he's okay with everything going on, you know, like whatever you're bringing to it. But then he'll come and say, you know, if it's not too much, do you think you could lower your body down at this point so that I can hold the frame with you and with everything? You're like, okay, great. You know, but he's very respectful. But Mike usually trusts the actor's instincts, you know. He only gets annoyed if, you know, you're doing something and it's totally off the page, like you're not following it. And if you're not word perfect, he gets really mad. Yeah. But generally his notes are technical.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much. Henry Thomas, everybody. Please go visit him at his table in the dealer room. We got a couple more hours.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming out.
And we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Megan Wallace. Thanks. Thank you, Steve.